the link yet, it will be in the upper right-hand corner on most of the slides so that you can participate. The other good thing about visiting the link is you will be able to download the slides after the presentation, and I will also email you all hyperlinks to all of the items that we discuss in today's presentation. So you'll get to participate during the presentation, and you'll have a bunch of resources to take with you afterwards. So today I'm going to be talking to you all about the pathway to the CPA application process and the pathway to your CPA license. But first, let's all introduce ourselves. Please provide your name on the app. My name is Kim Holland. I'm the account manager for Becker Professional Education here in Dallas-Fort Worth. I've been in this role for over 10 years. So I've dealt with a lot of students going through this process. I've heard a lot of tips and tricks from both students going through the process as well as the board with whom I communicate regularly. So all of the information I'll be providing you all today is going to be excellent for reference whenever it's time for you to go through the process. So what exactly is the process? Essentially, there are 5 key steps to becoming a CPA. Qualify, apply, study, schedule, and succeed. Seems simple enough, but where it gets tricky is that the way in which you complete each of these steps will be completely dependent on the jurisdiction in which you want to receive your license. And there are 55 jurisdictions in the U.S. No 2 jurisdictions are alike. So you have to do your research ahead of time so that you can make sure you're completing each of these steps in the correct way. Jurisdictions are typically based off of state. So, in which state do you plan to receive your license? It is a best practice to receive licensure in the state in which you intend to work. The only time this really doesn't matter is if you're an international candidate or someone who's going into a global role where you'll be traveling outside the U.S. frequently or located outside the U.S. In that case, you're not in any of the jurisdictions, so it doesn't really matter which one you pick. But other than that, it is a best practice to have licensure in the state in which you work so that your role won't be limited in any way. Okay, it looks like every single person in the room is planning to sit for Texas, which is what I expected, but I normally see at least 2 other states on there, so that's great. So we are going to talk about the 5 key steps to CPA and how they should be performed within the jurisdiction of Texas. And for those of you who have just joined us, there's a link up at the top of the screen so that you can participate in the presentation and receive resources afterwards. So step 1, qualify. You must complete all educational requirements prior to sitting for the CPA examination in the state of Texas. Educational requirements include 150 college credit hours and a bachelor's degree. Within your 150 hours, you need 30 hours of upper level accounting coursework. For the most part, upper level means above principals. So they're looking for junior, senior, graduate level accounting courses. Within your 30 hours of accounting, a maximum of 15 hours may come from online or blended type courses. So you have to put in some face time with your accounting classes. A minimum of 15 hours must be in the traditional classroom format. Also within the 150, you need 24 hours of other related business coursework. This can be a wide variety of subjects from within the College of Business. There is a limitation, however. A maximum of 6 hours per subject area will count toward this requirement. So if, for example, you happen to have an undergraduate degree in finance, you can't count all 24 business hours from finance. They'll only take up to 6 hours finance, 6 hours economics, 6 hours general business or marketing, or you guys get the idea. They want to see some variety here. A new rule that just went into place not long ago, if you have an overflow of accounting hours, in other words, you have more than 30 upper level accounting hours, you can count those additional accounting hours towards your business hours, up to 6 hours. There are 3 specific courses that you will need to complete. First, a 3-hour board-approved ethics course. The instructor teaching the ethics course must also be certified by the board. The ethics course will only count towards your overall 150, even if it is listed as an accounting course in the school catalog. So don't get confused by that. Next, you need 2 hours of research, accounting or tax research. Now this is, I just need the laser pointer anyway. This is unique because, there we go. The 2 hours can come from a standalone course dedicated completely to research, or it can come from what they call integrated, where you're taking 2 different courses that each have a strong component, like a research project or something, that's going to count heavily towards your grade, and those 2 courses together equal your 2 hours. I believe here at Texas Wesleyan, the research requirement is a standalone research course at the graduate level. Is that correct?
It's cross-listed undergraduate.
Cross-listed, so you can take it at either level. That's accounting theory, so that's going to be how you meet the research requirement here at Texas Wesleyan. Same thing for communications. It's 2-hour requirement that can come from 1 course or 2 courses that each have a strong written component. The research hours will count towards your accounting, and the communication hours will count towards your business. Any questions about Texas educational requirements? Okay, so that's step 1. Next, step 2. What year are you in school? Let's see what our breakdown is in here today. Okay. Most of you are seniors. We do have a good chunk of freshmen in here, and we have some juniors as well. So we have a pretty wide variety of people, but it looks like everyone is in undergraduate at the moment. So when will you graduate? Alright, so we have December this year, May next year. Okay. So it's important for those of you who are coming up on graduation that you start thinking, how are you going to finish those educational requirements? If the CPA license is something you want to pursue, talk to anyone who decided to just go work for a little bit first and then come back to do school in order to meet requirements so that they can get their CPA. It's typically not going to be the best path. More often than not, it's going to be better that you just continue through, even if you're just doing 1 class a semester or something like that. So you definitely want to start planning ahead as early as junior year if possible. For those of you who are seniors, you still have time. How are you going to complete that 150-hour requirement? Are you going to go into the MBA program here at Texas Wesleyan University so that you can get all the rest of those boxes checked? If not, you need to do research on the other programs that are available to you. Depending on your background, a graduate degree may not be what you need. If you changed your major or something along those lines, You might have more than enough total hours and just need a few more accounting hours. And I think they have something available here, is that right? Yeah, they have something available here as well where you can just finish up your requirements for the exam. So it's definitely time for quite a few of you to be researching those options and making sure that you have all your choices and information ahead of you so that you can start getting applications in time, because there are deadlines for applications and things of that sort. So in your first year of grad school, or after you have completed at least 120 college credit hours, it's actually time for you to submit what's called the application of intent. This is the initial application to the Texas State Board of Public Accountancy for the CPA exam. And a lot of people wait to submit the application of intent until they've graduated, they've completely finished their schooling, they've given themselves a little bit of a break, and then they send this application in. And that is a mistake. The board actually wants you to send in this application 6 months to a year before you think you're going to finish the educational requirements. Because the main component to this application is an evaluation of your transcripts. It takes up to 6 weeks for you to hear back from the board initially as well. So you don't want to be sitting around waiting for nearly 2 months when you're studying for the exam and you're ready to schedule it and you still haven't heard back from the board. You also don't want to wait to do an evaluation of your education, because what if something's missing? You don't want to have already finished school, given yourself a break, started studying for the exam, and then find out, uh-oh, I still need 3 more accounting hours. So sending in the application of intent early is going to be beneficial not only to you, but also to the board. So again, it's roughly 6 months to a year before you're planning to finish, but no sooner than completing your undergraduate degree or completing at least 120 hours and 15 hours in accounting. The other benefit to submitting your application of intent is that once you've submitted this application, you can apply for the board's 5th year scholarship. And you can get more information about that from Dr. Webb. So when you send in the application of intent, they will send you back, let me address this as well, they will send you back your evaluation. You can then take that, go meet with one of your accounting professors, look at what you have left to complete in order to meet education requirements. If there's something they didn't accept and you think they should have, you have time to contest that, or you have time to fix things during ad drop before graduation to ensure that you will have eligibility requirements met. There is a $20 fee for this application, but you do not have to pay that fee again so long as you update your account within a 2-year time frame. If you submit it and you don't do anything with your account for 2 years, they assume that you've decided not to pursue it and they toss out your record and then you'll have to start from scratch. But as long as you're updating your account and staying in touch, you shouldn't have to pay that $20 fee again. Once your application of intent is approved, or once you know beyond the benefit of the doubt that it's going to be approved, it's time to create a study plan for the CPA examination. The AICPA states that the average CPA candidate will spend anywhere between 400 to 500 hours studying for the CPA exam. So this is something that you have to plan out. It's something that you have to do with intent. You're not going to just find 400 to 500 hours just laying around during the year. You have to purposefully put this into a schedule. The AICPA also recommends that you plan to take all 4 sections of the CPA exam within no more than a year. In order to get through 400 to 500 hours of study within no more than a year, and allow yourself time to take your exams, you can only move so slowly. So the slowest pace at which most CPA reviews will recommend you study is 12 to 15 hours a week. So that's a couple hours a day on average, but you can schedule it out differently if you want to, 2 to 3 hours a day on average. Okay? The study plan that we're looking at, this candidate is moving at the slowest recommended pace of 12 to 15 hours per week, except for with audit. So this candidate either took some PTO after busy season, so they could spend more time during the day studying for audit and take the exam more quickly, Or we're looking at the study plan of an auditor who was just really strong in audit and didn't need to spend as much time studying. So this candidate was able to get all of that taken care of and get all exams taken before the end of the year so they could take a break over the holidays. Okay. Any questions about creating a study plan? I'm typically asked, in what order should I take the exams? Because almost every CPA candidate you talk to will swear by the order that they went, that that's why they passed. And I've heard every order out there, and students say, that's why I passed. And I've heard, oh, the only order you shouldn't do is this one. And I've talked to a student who's done exactly that order and passed all 4 parts on the first try. So order has not proven to have any effect on pass rate. There is something that has proven to have an effect on pass rate, however. Can anyone guess what that is? Studying, yes. Obviously, yes, studying is definitely going to help your pass rate.
Using Becker.
Well, Becker, yes. Using a high-quality CPA review can help increase your pass rate.
Really soon after you graduate.
Yes. Okay? One of the first skills that are going to leave you almost immediately whenever you finish your educational requirements and are starting to move on with your life are your study skills. So it has been proven statistically by NASBA, the National Association of State Boards of Accountancy, year after year after year, that the closest you sit for the exam after finishing those educational requirements, the more likely it is you will pass. You're used to studying, you still have test-taking skills, and those things will leave you so quickly once you're not doing them regularly anymore. So the best thing you can do to increase your pass rates is to create a study plan, stick to that plan, and make sure you're sitting for all 4 parts, preferably within a year after graduation. Okay? If you wait longer than a year after graduation to take your first exam, it's statistically proven that your pass rates are going to be significantly lower. Okay? And the whole point of doing this is to pass the exams and be successful. So that's the best thing you can do for yourself. Don't procrastinate. Make sure that you make it a priority to get it done as soon as you are eligible to do so. So with that being said, when do you plan to review for the CPA exams? Based off of when everybody was saying they are classification-wise, I'm expecting that everyone will be more than 12 months. We might see some 9 to 12 months depending on your educational background. Oh, we have some people who are planning to sit in the next 3 months. Okay. Great, so for those of you who are planning to sit within 0 to 3 months, and even those of you who are planning to sit within 3 to 6 months, you should definitely be shopping for CPA review and starting to put together tentative study plans. Start to have an idea of when you should be able to start. And I recommend that you do that because the CPA exam changes annually, and it has a tendency to also change roughly mid-year. So you don't want to actually purchase a CPA exam review more than 6 months before you plan to take your first exam. Okay? You want the information that you're studying to be relevant to the day you're going to test because the exam changes. You don't want to spend hours studying something and then the exam changes and that content's not going to be on the exam. So make sure that you're keeping that in mind. So definitely those of you in the 0 to 6 month window, you should definitely be shopping. And if you haven't already submit your application of intent, you need to go ahead and get on that as well. For those of you who are in the 6 to 12 month period, I would actually recommend you go ahead and get that application of intent into the board if you haven't done that yet. That's definitely something that you're in the prime spot. 6 to 12 months before you plan to take the exam is when the board wants you to send your application in. So you guys need to definitely make sure you're getting your application of intent in. And those of you who are more than 12 months out, just know that getting that application of intent in year before you plan to take the exam is going to be your next step in this process. So once you've created a study plan and you have begun to study, it's time for you to apply to sit for the exam with the Texas State Board and actually schedule your exam with a Prometric testing site. The eligibility application is conducted online, and it's going to be a much quicker process than that of the application of intent. With the application of intent, I said it can take up to 6 weeks before you get a reply from the board, but with the eligibility application, it's typically going to be like a week. So it moves very quickly from this point on. This is why you want to have an idea of when your first exam will be. The eligibility application is $15, and you have to submit an eligibility application every time you want to take an exam. So fingers crossed, everyone in this room will only do 4 eligibility applications. Once your eligibility application is processed and approved, they will send you an invoice for your exam fee. Each of the exam fees are roughly $210. So again, hopefully you're only paying those exam fees 4 times. For the entire CPA exam application and fee process, I would budget for $1,000. Even if your employer reimburses you for these fees, you have to have the cash flow to cover them up front. So start putting aside, don't have that last beer if you're out, things like that. Start putting aside $5, $10 here and there so that you'll have that budget. To go through the entire process one time does not cost $1,000. So hopefully you'll go through all 4 sections and you'll have some money left over to treat yourself to a nice dinner or something like that. If not, you'll have some extra money to take that next section again if you need to because you failed or something along those lines. So once you pay your exam fee, you'll receive what's called a notice to schedule, abbreviated as NTS. The notice to schedule in Texas is good for 90 days. So once you have a notice to schedule in hand for a section of an exam, you have 90 days to schedule and take that section of the exam. NASBA recommends that CPA candidates schedule their CPA exam at least 45 to 60 days in advance. So more than half the time of your notice to schedule, you're already supposed to be scheduling the actual exam. This is why you want to create your study plan before you get a notice to schedule in hand. Several candidates in Texas, as soon as they have their notice to schedule in hand, they go ahead and contact a Prometric testing site and schedule that exam. Prometric tests several different kinds of exams. It's not just the CPA exam, and they only have so many seats available in each location. So the locations can fill up. And I have talked to candidates who procrastinated and waited and ended up having to drive out to Tyler or drive out to Waco or up to Oklahoma in order to take an exam before the notice to schedule expires. If you allow that 90-day time frame to pass, there is no extension, there is no refund. You are out of that $15 eligibility application fee and that $210 exam fee. So you don't want to let a notice to schedule expire, okay? Once you take and pass your first section of the exam, you will have credit for that section for 18 months. If you pass the 3 remaining parts within that 18-month time frame, you are done and you can move on with your life. If not, you will lose credit for the first part passed, and your 18-month time frame will bump to whenever you took and ultimately passed your next section of the CPA exam. The only thing more demotivating than failing a section of the exam and having to take it again is passing a section of the exam and then having to take it again, okay? Whenever I talk to working full-time professionals who get caught in this endless loop of passing a section but losing credit for this one, and then passing a section and then losing credit for this one, a lot of times they give up because it just gets so frustrating and so demotivating that now I have to take that one again, and now I have to take that one again. So you do not want to fall in that loop. So something that you may have noticed, you have 18 months to take and pass all 4 sections of the exam. But remember when we were talking about the study plan? What does the AICPA recommend? How long should you plan for taking all 4 parts of the exam? A year. So why do they do that? Yes. So you have time to retake sections if you fail them before losing credit for the first part if you passed it. If you plan for this whole process to take the full 18-month time frame, you're going to have a bad time. And it's not going to be fun already. So let's not make it worse than it needs to be. Okay? Any questions about applying to sit and schedule your exam? Okay. So let's talk about the CPA exam itself. There are 4 independent sections to the exam. Each section is 4 hours in length. All 4 parts of the exam will include multiple choice questions that will weigh 50% of your grade. There are typically 60 to 80, depending on the section, multiple choice questions within each exam. Each exam will also have something called task-based simulations. These are what our our regional lead instructor calls fancy multiple choice questions. Because you're not going to type any words in task-based simulations. You'll click on a box and an option window will pop up and you'll select that. You will type numbers if there is numbers that need to go in there, however. So task-based simulations may include you completing an income statement or doing some journal entries. There will be at least 1 research task in financial, audit, and regulation. You may also have to proofread a document. These are called document review simulations, where you basically find an error in the document and select what should be there instead. So this isn't going to be anything you have not seen before. It's just going to be in a computer-based testing format. The task-based simulations will account for the remaining 50% of your grade in financial, audit, and regulation, and there will be 8 task-based simulations for you to complete in those exams. In business, your task-based simulations will only account for 35% of your grade, and there will be 5 of them for you to complete. The remaining 15% of your score from the business exam will come from 3 written communication tasks. This is where they make sure that you can, in fact, communicate as a professional, as a manager, as a what have you, because you're testing to be a CPA, and they want to make sure you can, in fact, communicate with people, because CPAs, public accounting, etc., it is a people business. It is a lot of explaining the financials to other people, so they want to make sure you can, in fact, communicate. You have to score at least a 75 on each of the 4 sections in order to pass. And there is no shame of being a member of the 300 Club, because once you have CPA after your name, that's all that matters. As we stated earlier, you can take the exam in any state or jurisdiction, but it is a best practice to sit in the state in which you will be working. And you have 18 months to take and pass all 4 sections of the exam. Any questions about the structure? Let's talk about content and study time. So the audit exam is incredibly narrow in content matter, right? The subject matter that we're looking at here is audit. It's pretty narrow. Because it's so narrow, they will go deeper into this subject matter than any of the other 3 parts. There are 4 higher order thinking skills the exam will test. Remembering and understanding, it's memorization, regurgitation basically. Application, can you actually apply this information that you've memorized? Analysis, can you analyze the data and come to a conclusion? And then we have evaluation. Evaluation will only be tested on the audit section of the exam, which makes sense. If you're going to come in and perform an audit, evaluation skills are kind of important. 80 to 100 hours on average is the expected study time for the audit exam. If audit is a strength of yours, you've taken more than 1 audit class, it'll probably be on the lower end of that spectrum. If audit is a weakness of yours and you've only had the one audit class, it'll probably be on the higher end of that spectrum. Financial accounting and reporting. This exam is the heaviest in content. Incredibly broad amount of content that you have to get through in order to be properly prepared for this exam. Coursework that will come to mind while you study for financial include your principles classes, your intermediate classes, advanced accounting, and governmental and nonprofit. On average, it will take a candidate 130 to 150 hours to properly prepare for the financial exam. If you took everything that I listed and it's somewhat fresh in your mind, it'll be toward the lower end of that spectrum. If you didn't take governmental and not-for-profit, or if things aren't really fresh in your mind from your intermediate classes and whatnot, it'll probably take the higher end of that. So this is where we're going to be looking at a lot of financial statements and all of that fun stuff. Business is a bit of a hodgepodge, business environment and concepts. This is where they're going to test all that other related business coursework that we talked about at the beginning of the presentation. So economics, information systems, cost managerial accounting, that will all be tested within business. Like audit, it will take 80 to 100 hours to properly prepare for the business exam. A lot of people think that if you're spending 100 hours on the business exam, you're spending too long. But I've also talked to people who have just kind of crammed through business, thought they were fine, went and took it and got like a 70. So you do want to make sure you do your due diligence on this exam, even though a lot of people say it's the easy one. You still want to make sure you pass it, right? And then last but certainly not least, we have regulation. This is often referred to as the federal tax exam, and for good reason. The vast majority of the content covered in the exam will come from federal tax. It can be up to roughly 75% of the content on this exam. The remaining 25 to 40% will come from business law and ethics. On average, it will take a candidate 100 to 120 hours to properly prepare for this exam. If tax was a strong suit of yours, it'll be in the lower spectrum. If it's a weakness, it'll be on the higher end of the spectrum. Any questions about the regulation exam? Okay. Simple enough, right? Once you've passed all 4 sections of the exam, you have step 5, succeed. You'll need to complete licensure requirements. This includes work experience of a 1 year full-time under a licensed CPA. It can be 1 year full-time or 2 to 3 years part-time. It really just needs to be 2,000 hours total. And you'll need to complete an additional ethics exam. This will be emailed to you, so it's a take-home test. You just need to score an 85 to pass. Once you've met those requirements, you can then apply for your CPA license. CPAs, on average, earn 10% more than their unlicensed counterparts. So having those 3 letters after your name, even if you're doing the exact same job for the exact same company as somebody else who does not have those 3 letters after your name, automatically gives you a pay bump. But when you factor in that CPAs receive more frequent levels of promotion and higher levels of promotion, it adds up to a difference of more than $1 million over your lifetime career. On average, CPAs earn $4 million, whereas unlicensed accountants earn $2.5 million. So the return on investment in getting your CPA designation is well worth going through this oh not fun, but oh so worth it process, okay? So speaking of work experience, where will you be working after graduation? Do you already have a job lined up? Okay, Microsoft, don't know, okay. Yes. All right. So for those of you who are still looking If you're considering going into public accounting, I encourage you to come to Becker's Meet the Firms, which is actually next Friday, November 8th, from 12:30 to 4:30 p.m. Most of the public accounting firms are going to be seeking 2021 internship candidates, but there are some firms who are looking for full-time entry-level staff. So I encourage you to come. And if you haven't thought about where you're going to start your accounting career, or you haven't started your accounting career yet and you're just kind of, oh, I don't know what to do, I do encourage you to start in public accounting. Because if you look at job descriptions in corporate, in government, even in finance, a lot of the mid-management up job descriptions will say that they want to see public accounting experience on your resume. So even if you just do an internship and that's it, at least you have something public accounting that you can put on your resume, and that can make you a little bit more competitive for other jobs. So you can register for the event at tinyurl.com/BeckerMTF2019. And if you participated in today's presentation, I will be emailing you this link as well. For those of you who are earlier in your career, we had some freshmen in the room. If you're a first semester junior or a sophomore, you may want to attend the winter leadership program that is happening at the end of the semester after finals and everything are complete. It's on Friday, December 20th at the Texas Society of CPA's office in Addison off the Tollway. This is an all-day conference where professionals from local CPA firms will come and talk to you about subjects like careers in accounting, audit versus tax, what your resume should look like, and there will be a panel of recruiters so you can get your questions answered. If this is an event in which you have interest, please register at tinyurl.com/BWLP2019. And same thing, if you participated in the presentation today, you'll get emailed this hyperlink as well. For those of you who are in that 0 to 6 months out from taking your first exam, as we mentioned earlier in the presentation, you should be shopping. Almost every CPA review will have a demo of their product on their website. Becker CPA exam review demo is 21-day access that includes lecture samples for each section, access to skills practice. Skills practice is Becker's exercises to help prepare you for those higher order thinking skills that we discussed earlier in the presentation. You'll also have access to some task-based simulations and multiple choice questions. You'll be able to experience our simulated exams that mimic the CPA exam and flashcards. And you'll be able to play around with our study planner tool. So if you're trying to tentatively come up with an exam plan, you can kind of do that with our complimentary demo. If you are ready to enroll in a review course and you would like someone from Becker to contact you and talk to you about your options, please provide a cell number at this time, and a Becker Success Coach will reach out to you. If you have additional questions, that's my contact information. You can email me at kholland@becker.com, or you can call me at 469-233-2355. I'm also happy to connect with you on LinkedIn at Holland Dallas is how you can find me very easily on LinkedIn. Becker is also involved in nearly all of the social media sites, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, YouTube. So feel free to follow us on all of those channels. And we have our own online community at becker.com/theplusside, where CPA candidates, Becker alumni, and other professionals will share industry news, articles about their strategy for the exam, etc. Any questions? It's a very quiet group for the potluck.
It is very quiet.
Yes. Okay. So like I said, if you participated in the presentation, you'll be able to download these slides. You should be able to do it from the app, and you'll get an email with the slides after I conclude the presentation. If you did not participate in the presentation, or if you just prefer hard copy items, I did bring stuff with me, so feel free to come up to the front and grab some of those if that's something you would prefer to have to the electronic version. I will be emailing all of you next week with hyperlinks to everything that we discussed today, including the application of intent and the 5th year scholarship, and the RSVP links for the events that are coming up through the end of the year. So that's everything for me. So thank you guys so much for your time. I appreciate it.